Thanks for joining us here at the SPL. My name is John Fetch. I'm joined by Ryan Agro Bailey as we move into day number 2. And boy, do we have some big games up on the docket for today, man. I'm really excited. We got to see United play yesterday, and they're going to try and end out their tough week here again. Another good matchup.
Yeah, I kind of deemed this eUnited test week on Esports Weekly.
Fairly.
And so far, they haven't passed. So I'm not going to say they have failed.
Sure.
They haven't passed yet. I think if they're able to put together a much better set today against Rival, I don't think they necessarily need to win, but if I'm expecting at least a 3-2 if eUnited's going to be a top-tier card in this year's SPL.
It's the kind of thing they would need here to show if they want to be at that top end, like you were saying. Let's take a look at the standings so you can see where everyone's already shaken up. And to kind of follow your analogy, if the test was broken into 2 parts, they took the easier part already and stumbled there, you know? I think that going up against Rival might be an even tougher test for them now. Rival 3-1, you can see where they're at. Dignitas still untouched up there 5-0, and eUnited taking their first set loss just yesterday, so hopefully they can shake that off if you're an eUnited fan.
I mean, yesterday may have been the easier one, but it wasn't easy by any stretch. I mean,
No.
Pittsburgh Knights looked like they've got a much better understanding of the meta right now, and their teamwork got a lot better. The 3-0 is not what I expected yesterday for the Pittsburgh Knights. I expected something closer to a 3-1, but they looked really, really dominant throughout. I'm looking forward to seeing what Rival has done in that meantime as well to improve their own level of gameplay.
And those are both teams who had a tough start, Rival, and the same thing for the Knights, and were able to work with that bye week a little bit to get prepared. But eUnited needed that bye week too. They added emilitoooooo quite obviously in that time off and got rid of Venium, and so they've had some work to do to try and get him into the fold. I mean, exactly what role is he in? I had a chance to talk with him just yesterday about how he fits into this squad, and he said he feels like sometimes they can lack a little bit of leadership, and maybe he can kind of step into that role some too for this team.
Yeah, I think that that's a very fair analysis of what eUnited has struggled with so far. Is that in-game leadership and out-of-game at times, obviously with their forfeits of games 1 and 2 against Space Station. So I think that emilitoooooo stepping in and kind of assuming that role is something that's going to take some time, and that's the big thing, is that we can't really expect eUnited to be running at full strength right away. But for a team that a lot of people were very high on after their 4-0 start, I mean, I know they just made a new change, but it's emilitoooooo. He's a 2-time world champion. I think it's fair to expect better than what we saw from them yesterday, and now expect it from them today. And I think a lot of it starts around what Benji is going to do in that solo lane for this squad. I think yesterday was a real disappointment for him. He was bullied really, really consistently by Deathwalker yesterday, and just wasn't able to make as much of an impact as you would have liked. Here stealing the Gold Fury, sure, that's a big play from him, but overall, Deathwalker's Osiris really did give Benji a lot of issues until he went to that Camazotz game 3.
Yeah, and they essentially ran it back for most of that set too, like you said, until he ended up going to that Camazotz. But I think this is part of what's going to make that leadership role, whoever it is that does it, so difficult. This squad is packed with big personalities and people who are really, really confident about the way that they play and their understanding of the game. And I don't know if it's anyone more so than Benji, and rightfully so, right? The way that Benji's been doing it has been very, very good up until now. The question is, how do they get everyone on the same page? How do they line up all these pieces? Who's willing to defer when to whom and for which calls? You know, that's where it's so much that this team has to try and decide on. You hear it all the time in traditional sports, as much as I hate it, but it's almost like a culture you have to develop, right?
Yeah.
On that team, onto who's going to be doing what and when. And it's just difficult when you got big names like this on that team and someone over there like Benji.
That stat line we just saw really surprised me, because again, this is a team that's 4-1. They just took their first set loss in the set before this. And Benji's KD is only 49-46. I mean, for all the hype that's been around Benji and how well he's been playing this year, I wasn't really buying into that. I mean, look, Benji I expect to be at the level of Deathwalker and fineokay and Variety, and I think he's been significantly behind those 3 in particular. And the score lines, I mean, if you're winning a lot of games and you're still only 49-46 as a premier solo laner, I just don't think that's good enough yet. I think that Benji still has more in the tank.
And to be fair, the reason why we were a bit, not high on eUnited despite those wins, who they beat, right? I took a look. It was LG, SK, Space Station, and Trifecta, right?
Sure.
Cumulatively, those teams were 4-14 coming into this week. I mean, that's just not particularly good. The first team that they lost to was 3-2, who almost had as many wins as those 4 teams put together. So I mean, if you look at the numbers, you shouldn't have been sold on this team just yet until this test week came up. And then when you delve into Benji's numbers, you can kind of see that even amongst those matches that they should be winning, it wasn't exactly a star type of performance. I think there is still a little bit to come for this eUnited team for us to see them at that level we expect.
Absolutely. I mean, and yesterday I think proves that. I mean, BigManTingz had a bit of a rough set in my mind, some positioning woes, some build woes.
And that's out of character. He's looked great in Season 6.
Yeah, he's looked pretty good so far, but just didn't really yesterday. And this is the first test of teams that are going to make you look bad in the mid lane if you mess up against them. And now they've got another one with Team Rival, with CaptainTwig and PandaCat, the way those two have been playing really, really well.
Yeah.
Good luck surviving fineokay when he starts rotating into these team fights. I mean, Rival in general is just really, really good at punishing you, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how eUnited has prepared for this match in particular.
No, you're exactly right. That seeing how they prepared is going to be critical here for this situation. Hopefully, we can get some insight. I have been told that we are in the booth there with eUnited, and they do have someone standing by. So let's go ahead and head over to Calais for the interview.
How's it going, guys? Tom Badger here next to Calais, and, well, Calais just asked me how I'm doing. I'm doing all right, so I'll ask it back to you. How you guys doing today?
We're doing fine. I mean, sure, we got defeated 3-0 yesterday. I feel like it was a close game. It was mostly our mistakes in late games, so hopefully today those mistakes won't happen.
When it comes to these back-to-back weeks where you play Thursday and Friday, is that something you like? Do you like being able to get right back out there, or do you want more time to look at your VODs traditionally?
I feel like it's easier to just have a spaced-out games rather than consecutive ones, because the other team just gets to see what the hell you're doing, and they just gotta it's weird.
So definitely one of the tougher weeks for you just because of the format, but also the opponent. Team Rival across the way. These guys are strong. These guys are pretty consistent. And, of course, Fino over there in the solo lane. What are you guys focusing on when it comes down to Rival?
We're focusing to take down the Reaper.
Just that simple?
Yes.
Sounds about right then. Emilito, the addition to the squad, he's in your dual lane, so you're working directly with him. What can you tell me about Emil and how he's helping the squad?
He's a beast all around, and that's pretty much everything I can say.
Well, it sounds like you guys have been clicking, despite the fact that you guys had the loss yesterday. How are you guys looking to turn that around today?
As I said, just not make mistakes in late game, and we should be fine.
Sounds good. Well, that's Calais support for Team eUnited. Fantastic. Good luck, and we'll catch you guys later.
Wow, someone has to stop Calais from giving too much away from the game plan there. Things almost got scary for that team. But no, it's good to get a chance to hear from them. Clearly, they're still confident, I think, despite the tough loss that they just took yesterday.
Sure.
And like they said, Emil is a beast. And for the record, that's why our expectations are high for them, even though he's a new addition. That is a strong team. Those are all players that we can expect more from. I expect them to not go down 3-0 again here today.
Yeah, look, when you start 4-0, you get a target on your back from other teams, from fans, from us as analysts. I mean, now you have a standard to live up to, and I just don't think they did it yesterday. I'm looking forward to seeing how they can do it today, though. I do think that Rival is a team that they may be able to do a little bit more against, just because I expect a little bit more from eUnited overall. I do think that Rival is a stronger team right now than the Pittsburgh Knights, so it makes the challenge that much harder. But I think that eUnited getting an understanding of, oh, this is what top-level play in the SPL actual games is like. I'm sure they're scrimming against teams like Rival and Dignitas and the Pittsburgh Knights really, really consistently, but doing it in a real game is very, very different. And so they got their first taste of it in Season 6 on LAN here yesterday, and I'm hoping that was enough to catapult them today.
And they're going to need a little bit of help. You talked about how BigManTingz not looking great yesterday was disappointing, and how he's kind of in that range that he was getting punished by good mid laners.
Sure. Turns
Turns out one of those good mid laners is PandaCat. And who would have thought it would be that this soon, right? I mean, this guy went from being a hunter last year and a pretty damn good one to now being a pretty darn good mid laner here as well. And it didn't take nearly as long as you would have expected. His own team was kind of surprised by how quickly he was able to make that adjustment. I heard from Slaney when I talked to him during the week about how the team was feeling, that he thought that they were more of a phase 2 type thing. They do well, but they need some time. He had to really focus on getting PandaCat up to speed, but he's looked great so far.
He really has. And look, to say he was a great hunter is definitely an understatement. I mean,
doing him a disservice, yeah.
Yeah, PandaCat is on the Mount Rushmore of SMITE hunters. He was that good for that long and that consistent for that long. So it doesn't surprise me that he had a high ceiling in mid, but I completely agree that we're kind of ahead of schedule for him. Now, we have seen in the past, we've got, great breakout seasons in roles, and then you kind of hit that sophomore slump about halfway through the year. I think that PandaCat does need to watch out for that. But with the way the rest of Rival plays, I don't know how likely that even is. I mean, especially when you factor in that he's playing with PBM still, his longtime support in the duo lane, mid and support still works together all the time, and so that level of comfort that I think that he has with Mike in particular has been a big reason for his success.
Yeah, he's got the Swiss Army jungler of CaptainTwig to back him up, right? Twig is so willing to do whatever it is that your team needs. If you need some control-heavy stuff, he'll play like an Unbots maybe or something like that. If you need someone who can just carry the game, then he'll pick Pele and start running from the early game too, and that has to make your job so much easier easier as a mid laner. I mean, I'm sure you could speak more to it
Sure.
from your own experience, but having someone who can kind of fit what it is that your team needs and help the identity change on the fly has got to make the job easier.
Absolutely. I mean, knowing that your jungler can pick exactly what you need to protect you or help you out in those sorts of instances and be
Right.
your initiator is a huge boon for sure. And the way that the front line has been playing for Rival and fineokay and PBM also makes it far, far easier for you as a backliner because everything is all those clips was PandaCat running at other people, no one running at him.
Right.
And that's where mid lane gets its easiest.
Yes, that's when you're enjoying the space that's been afforded to you by Twig and fineokay, right?
Right.
And those guys having really good games. But I've been told that we do have an interview standing by here with Team Rival. We've been gassing them up plenty. Let's go ahead and get over there to the PandaCat mobile for the interview.
Hey, welcome back, guys. Tom Badger here next to PandaCat, the mid laner here for Team Rival. You guys going into this matchup, just straight up, what's the feeling as far as eUnited and what they can bring?
Well, we're feeling a 3-0, but they do have Emil, the 2-time world champion, so we're looking out for him. But if he doesn't pop off, I don't think they could beat us.
That's really what that's exactly where I was going to go. You know, you're a longtime Hunter player coming over here to the mid lane. What can you say about Emilito's approach to the game and how you guys can affect that?
I think Emil's personal approach to the game is like he's a very unpredictable player. But in terms of God Pool, I think a lot of people overcredit his God Pool. Like he's kind of just a one-trick Kronos, and then if that doesn't work, then who cares? But I mean, he is a hard player to play against because you just don't know what he's doing in a good way. Like you don't know if you're getting ganked or if he's alone or like just things like that, which make him very hard to play against.
So that's on their side of the battlefield. What about you guys? How are you guys planning on approaching the game today?
We're just gonna pick some good gods, you know, some pressure gods that just, you know, cut them out, bleed them out, sort of speaking, and just run at them and beat them.
All right, so an all-aggressive strategy here coming out from Rival. Thanks a lot, PandaCat. Good luck, and we'll catch you later.
Thank you.
I like the idea of picking good gods. I don't think he's wrong. And
Wait, what if we picked bad gods, though? Do you think that would work out?
no, I don't think it would at all. No, I think
Oh,
he
then
should-
they should stick with the good gods.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's the right play. And I know it might have sounded simple what he meant, but I think what he was trying to say is if you just give us the best tools, we can just win the game, right? We don't need to do
Sure.
anything fancy when we go in there or anything like that. And you heard him say kind of bleed him out too. I think maybe you couldn't have heard it, but I think there was definitely some inclination to what the game plan was there, right? Maybe try to control the jungle, try and slowly strip away farm from this team and build themselves up a lead slowly over time with the better picks.
I think that's definitely an option. I think it's also equally likely that PandaCat was simply trolling about something, and that was an inside joke with his team, and just decided to say those words because he thought it was funny.
That's
Because words
equally
have no
possible.
meaning, as Barracuda told me yesterday. it was glib yesterday for sure. Look,
Unfortunate.
this team, I am interested. I'm excited to see Mike and Panda in particular play
Yes.
against Benji for the first time in 2 years or so. You know, those guys have been longtime teammates. Specifically, Panda and Benji have been longtime teammates.
Right.
So I'm excited to see how they're able to go up against him. I mean, you know Benji's going to want to be all over PandaCat in these team fights because that's his job first and foremost. But also, that's just kind of Benji's play style. He wants to remind Panda, you know, who the carry was
Right.
during those old United days for them. So that's just kind of the way that I think this match is going to go. Is Benji versus the backline of Rival. How well is he going to be able to actually dive and be effective in those moments? And if he's actually going to build defense this time.
Yes, that would certainly help. A very aggressive sort of build that he went. I think even beyond the hybrid type. Brawler's beat stick isn't hybrid, right?
No.
Like those types of
Yeah,
items
those
are
Crusher
pure.
and Brawlers
Yeah.
yesterday. I mean, yeah, it definitely did not end up working out for him. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, it went really hard into the damage on that one. But I think we're kind of missing the headline from what we learned there from PandaCat. I mean, he called Emilito the one trick. We heard it right there, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wonder if this team is even considering a Kronos ban, since it seems like they really don't care what else it is that he is playing, or, you know, it's certainly possible PandaCat's being a little extra glib, of course. But, I mean, there was probably some truth underneath there that Emilito is so scary on this Kronos, it's why they gave him the skin, that if you take that away from him, maybe he is a little bit more like just going up against a regular SPL hunter.
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment overall. I mean, Kronos definitely is the pick for Emilito. I do think that Panda's discrediting Emil's history a little bit with other
Sure.
picks that he's had a lot of success with in big games and big moments, but overall, you definitely look at the Kronos as Emil's strongest pick right now, and especially, I think right now is the time where you can say that the most about Emilito and be the most correct, because he just hasn't had that competitive experience over the last few months that all these other players have had. So of course he's going to default back to his most comfortable and best god, as the season goes on, I don't think emilitoooooo will be a one-trick, but right now, I think it's a fair argument.
That's right. You want to control as many variables, I imagine, as you can, especially when you're making big adjustments with your team, so you truly can go wrong. The last thing you want is when you're trying to talk about maybe you should have been here or there is, well, I could have been there way easier if I just picked this, instead, maybe, or someone with some more pressure. So instead, control what you can, go to what you know, and then try and work it out with your team. So certainly makes some sense. But this whole team really could potentially be scary if they can get into the groove, right? I mean, we talked about it. BigManTingz been having a much better year than what I would have expected for him. I've always thought of him as sort of a role player, but I think he's been a big part of what this team has done well for this so far in this split. iceicebaby obviously always has carry potential for this team too. eUnited are right there on the precipice all the time of being a really scary team.
Absolutely. I mean, iceicebaby and Calais have been to back-to-back world championships.
Yes.
I mean, this is a very, very, very strong team. The one thing I do want to note about BigManTingz, something that I'm watching out for, is in their last few sets, he's been caught in mid-harpies and died for it multiple different times.
Wow, yeah.
And I'm wondering if he's going to start being a little bit safer around those mid-harpies, because it is starting to set up eUnited for a little bit behind the 8-ball.
Well, first pick is Rival here as we move into the picks and bans, and they ban away the Achilles. Come on, guys. Haven't you seen the clip? You got to let fineokay have that one as King Arthur gets banned away by eUnited. No surprises there. Also, Zeus being banned out. So now eUnited have to decide if this is a Merlin or Xbalanque ban. Very quickly decided it is a Merlin ban, which means they've got Xbalanque open to send over to Arkkyl.
Yeah, Xbalanque is obviously the one that I'm looking at. Freya also there, but it's actually going to be Osiris.
Interesting.
For Rival. I mean, the Deathwalker played so well on it yesterday, and it clearly gave eUnited a lot of issues. So why not go back to it? I've got no problem with it here.
Yeah, until you can see that eUnited can beat it, there's no reason not to. I mean, hey, if you can confuse them this first time and think maybe the Knights are still over there, maybe there's some value to that one too, as they had a tough time slowing down Deathwalker on it, and I imagine fineokay will be no easier of a guy to beat as Terra gets locked in for eUnited. This makes some sense. Go ahead and grab your Guardian, and it can still come back to their Hunter, though I am a bit surprised it was the Jing Xbalanque being pushed a little bit further down.
Yeah, I was going to say, ML, how much Xbalanque has he played?
That's true.
He
hasn't been playing while he's been in the meta, has he?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, he was meta last year, so I'm sure he's got it in his god pool, but it's still not that. It's not an ML god necessarily.
Sure.
I don't think Jing really is either, to be fair, but that's what they're going to lock in pretty early here. This is just the please get away from me Osiris god, and you can just please get away from me any god on the enemy team, because that's what Jing is really picked for, is her level of safety with airstrike and that long-range agility after the knockup. But now Rival has a couple options. I mean, Freya's on the table still.
Still strong.
But not great against Jing because of the banish. You can easily agility away. It's not great there. You could go Xbalanque here if you're Rival. I think that Arkkyl has definitely proven that he's very comfortable on that god. But the Habwa, and this is a nice flex pick, I think, for Rival, where Twig or PandaCat could be playing.
That's exactly right. PandaCat's had some good games on it. It was something that he was very comfortable playing when they first came in Season 6, and even though he had some troubles, he only really needed to hit 1 or 2 big ultimates with it, especially if they got late game to turn it around. So now that he's even more comfortable than he was toward the start of the split, that could potentially be very scary for him as the Hachiman comes in for Arkkyl. The Xbalanque entirely passed on by Rival at this point. Very likely that they won't be pairing those two hunters together, especially not with the Habwa already on the board. And now we move back towards eUnited. They've got the Terra and the Jing, so still a lot open for them. Do they want to prioritize something like a Bellona for that solo lane, or try and grab a solo laner like that? Or maybe even get something like a jungler on the table for iceicebaby that's being highly prioritized? I
think you go Camazotz here if you're eUnited. That's the only matchup where Benji looked any sort of comfortable against Osiris yesterday.
Sure.
But instead it's going to be the Ratatoskr. They're going to prioritize Ice in this game. That's the advantage. I mean, you heard Calais talking about it. A team gets to see everything that you're doing the day before, and you don't have that much time to adjust your picks and bans for what you're doing. Whereas Rival here, in my mind, should be banning Camazotz and just saying, hey, you clearly had trouble with this yesterday. See if you got any better after a night's sleep, which seems pretty unlikely. But Rival's picks and bans also very, very reminiscent of what Pittsburgh Knights did yesterday.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if they've been practicing against one another, or if Rival just watched that set yesterday and said, hey, this Habwa pick can be really good against them. The Hachiman pick is something that Vote did pretty well with. I mean, yes, Hachiman in particular also is a much more prevalent god in the meta, but Osiris Habwa is something that feels very Pittsburgh Knights to me.
Yes, I agree, though I wonder if maybe Rival should have prioritized Tingz' pick. The Zeus ban is in the throwaway slot, so that might not completely signal that that's part of their game plan to try and ban Tingz out, but I wonder if they could have benefited from grabbing a Rigid or something like that he's very comfortable on early. Maybe they won't end up paying for that, though, as Rival banned away the Camazotz in response to the Fafnir ban from eUnited.
Yeah, eUnited's going to be looking to ban out Mike from here, I think, because they already have Terra locked in. That's almost certainly going to be for Calais. Maybe they decide to give it over to Benji and just completely concede the solo lane.
Yeah.
That seems a bit unlikely to me.
I agree.
So I think eUnited's pretty safe to be banning out some supports here. Fafnir's the big one that PBM's been playing pretty consistently. I can't think of another god that he's played a whole lot of, though. It's in this season outside of the Fafnir. He's kind of been all over the place. Could ban Naja here as a setup god that could also flex over into the jungle potentially. I think Naja would probably be a pretty good one.
I think so too. A very strong pick that you want to try and remove here from this equation. Instead, though, they go with the Unbots, a control jungler to add to the mix. And I kind of like that. Right now, they are on the back end of the setup spectrum, right? They've got a lot of good follow-up, but maybe not as ton of the actual setup for it. So get that Unbots out of there as Rival take an eye towards that solo lane. It looks like they don't think that this Terra is indeed going to be going over there to Benji. They think that that's for Calais as well, and they want to ban away another aggressive solo laner who can hold their own up against this Osiris. Try and create some space for fineokay to build a lead over there.
Well, fineokay's 3 gods that he played yesterday against the Osiris all banned. Achilles, Camazotz, and Bologna were the 3 that he used against Deathwalker yesterday. So now it's time for him to go back to the drawing board and see exactly what he wants to go for. Kukulkan obviously comes to mind. He's got a skin for it, just like Benji has, or excuse me, just like Emilito has for Chronos. But
Sure.
I don't think it's going to be able to outbox the Osiris particularly well. I'm thinking of other warriors. Maybe you could try and go something like Guan Yu and concede the lane and just wait until you can group up and really double down on the healing potentially in that lane. I don't know how much it helps Benji to see the whole draft here either, because he already knows his lane matchup and what is likely to be the jungler, though I guess it's less likely that this Hobwa is in the jungle for Rival than it is for Pittsburgh Knights. This is a PandaCat god, so maybe Benji holding off is waiting to see what Twig is going to play before he locks it in.
And they'll just go ahead and prioritize Ting's pick anyway then here and grab the Vulcan for themselves. This adds a nice bit of a little small wombo combo if they can drop the ult and then have the Ratatoskr knock them up in it so that they can confirm it. So they've got a good bit of setup here to go along with this Vulcan. Plus, this is something that Tingz is definitely comfortable on, and we've seen him play quite well. No surprise they grabbed this one for him. Now we move the clock back over to Rival, and we should start to get a good idea of exactly where this Hobwa is going. With the Erlang Shen hovered, that does make me think that likely the Hobwa is then for PandaCat. But,
yeah.
I mean, even the Erlang Shen has some potential to go elsewhere, but no, this has all been decided. It's Ares coming in for PolarBearMike. Aggression across the board now is on the menu for Rival.
Wow, this is, we haven't seen a whole lot of Ares so far this year at all, and it's Kuzenbo in the solo lane for Benji. Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't hate it here. It's CC Immune Ultimate, which is a big thing. I love this Ares pick, first of all, for Rival. PBM is a storied Ares player throughout his whole career. Calais is obviously one that people think of as the Ares main, but Mike and Calais have pretty similar god pools in that regard. I think Ares is great against all of these dashes and non-CC immune ultimates on the other side.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how this Kuzenbo is going to do against Osiris. Hopefully Benji studied up on that matchup.
Yeah, I'm surprised with support being more aggressive. We haven't seen a little bit more Ares, especially this early. He's someone that could certainly thrive there. But we'll delay you all no longer. Game 1 with Rival and eUnited just about to get underway. Let's get this one over to the casters.
Thanks so much, Finch and Aggro. Yeah, Rival versus eUnited, and these compositions here, Tolly. Rival's comp is all about slow them down, let Ares chain them, and then Hachi and Hebo to explode.
And also to speed up the rest of Rival with the carpet, the Atlas of the Yellow River to chase them all out. eUnited are more about trying to lock down that one individual member with the Kuzenbo, Sumo Slam. A lot of control between the Terra and the Kuzenbo. It's about the mid to late game for eUnited if they can get there.
Just a little bit worried about this Ares pick being very instrumental against eUnited here. I mean, looking at the picks, you've got a Terra, Ratatoskr, Jing Wei. All of those characters do struggle against Ares.
That is true. Jing Wei has a little bit of crit built into her kit. Kuzenbo Reflect on the spiked shells could be a little bit obnoxious, especially if Benji elects to go for the Thorns, which might be the case, but Blink is a good secondary relic as well.
Blink available for PolarBearMike now as he leads the charge into enemy territory early on. Rival looking for a cheeky pick if they could find it, but instead they'll just drop a ward down around the speed buff. And that speed buff ward, Tolly, it's not to give vision of what's going on at the speed. I think it's more to see where the jungler goes after the fact.
And also who is exactly next to the jungler. iceicebaby could be accompanied by BigManTingz and Benji potentially. You don't have to be in your solo lane right away as a solo laner because There's about 30 seconds until the minions meet and about 23 seconds until the speed buff spawns, so you can still kind of assist in jungle shenanigans.
Two different builds coming up from the mid laners at the moment. PandaCat started in base, so he's going to have full shoes of focus. No potions for the Habois, whereas BigManTingz and the Vulcan will be going for the Book of Toth beginning here. Right inside, the supports are beginning the blue buffs, not even in the laning phase here. Focusing on, well, trying to get those blues as quick as possible, that little bit of bonus experience.
I'm surprised that PandaCat does this start. Normally, when you're doing the start of getting shoes of focus, you're throwing an ability through the wall. I don't think the water cannon has enough range to go through it, so that leads me to believe PandaCat got his water sprout, that's right, at level 1, so he can still hit the speed buff as he's walking through the lane.
Interesting plays there. Left-hand side, Erlang Shen early on, played by CaptainTwig. I was a little bit interested at whether we see Osiris in the solo or the jungle. CaptainTwig, a big proponent of jungle Osiris as time's gone on. But this meta specifically, and Rival's composition does feel very Pittsburgh Knights yesterday to me. And I think that's one of the reasons for that, Tolly, is because of how well yesterday went for them. If it's not broke, why would you not make eUnited solve that equation first, so to speak?
That's right, and that's why the fans at home are kind of expecting Rival to win. 81% of them voting for the black and purple. Doesn't surprise me with seeing how eUnited struggled against the Pittsburgh Knights, losing 0-3, their very first loss of Season 6. And honestly, they had an easy journey, I would say, at the beginning, where they took out LG. They had a 5-game setup against SK. They defeated Trifecta 3-0. They barely beat Space Station Gaming after, forfeiting 2 of their matches. But then Rival, on the other hand, had very difficult sets, where they lost the first set to Dignitas. They beat out Pittsburgh Knights, beat out Splice, and then kind of took out a crippled Space Station.
Bling from PolarBearMike onto BigManTingz. The beads are consumed to try and escape, but not in time. Mike gets credit for the kill with the blink. And I was about to say, a lot of what Rival are going to do in this early game, clearly by the fact that there's only blink on Ares and not on Erlang Shen, is either wait for those ultimates out with the no escape and wait for people to get out of position. Left-hand side, it's a tale as old as time. EU versus EU, Hunter versus Hunter. Arkkyl up against Emilito.
Arkkyl not really known to be playing aggressive, whereas Emilito definitely is going to be the case. And speaking of aggression, PBM making that play was so important onto BigManTingz. This last pick, Ares, was so important to really shut down eUnited's idea of the Terra and then the Vulcan, because you can't backfire there during that duration of the cripple, so you're going to be forced to use the beats if you want to get off any sort of relevant DPS, and then you got to worry about no escape once PBM hits level 5.
And as we know, PolarBearMike playing the Ares is very much a feast or famine god, and really comes down to how well you can land the chains. If the chains connect, you're going to make a big impact. If they don't, you're going to be a sitting duck most of the time, an ultimate bot, so to speak. Although you can't really ignore the protections he gives by slamming on that shield.
Well, also the Searing Flames with the pen boots on top of it could be an issue. We've seen some areas from time to time pick up Spear of Magus. I'm curious if that's going to be the case today for PBM, which would definitely accelerate the damage from PandaCat on the Habois mid.
It's a good point, but it does make it quite squishy in that role
does.
too. However, with the fact you've got an Osiris and an Erlang Shen, just weather the storm a little bit.
But nothing's funnier than being a support Ares and actually 100 to 0ing other enemy squishy characters.
Yeah. Very true indeed, and it's very frustrating for those characters to deal with that. But as you said, Magi's boots, very interesting there. Gank on the left-hand side, or just a bit of presence more than anything else from iceicebaby. Clearly, only being level 3 iceicebaby here, he didn't really want to try and gank a level 5 Hachiman at that point in time. And Jing not the greatest at trying to get a kill in the early game, she's more about farm.
I'm surprised that they don't at least try to force out Arkyl's ultimate, maybe go for the dash and the stun, but the problem is they don't really have offensive wards.
BigManTingz could do with an offensive ward right about now, or rather a defensive one. I don't know if it would have mattered because he falls down again in the mid lane. Chained up, slowed down, and that's what this composition's all about. It's set up for the Habois.
Beats were still down for 30 seconds. No way out for BigManTingz, and this is only going to get worse now that PandaCat's going to get some farm for himself. That mobility out of this Habois is really starting to help out Rival. That carpet getting everyone closer to the Vulcan after the blink engage from PBM.
A little bit risky to go for that speed buff there, and respectful from Rival, realizing that BigManTingz was on his way back to fall back. Sure, there was a window with iceicebaby only being level 4 still, but it wasn't worth the gamble for that speed, so Rival just accept the wins in the mid lane and a bit of farm stolen in the jungle.
I like the discipline because they didn't have PandaCat's ultimate. That was used to kill BigManTingz, and without that ultimate, it's a little risky risky, like you mentioned. You don't want to put yourself overextended to the point where you're giving anything back to your opposition. This is how SPL teams play. They look for these opportunistic advantages where they pick out BigManTingz twice, but they're not going to go for a speed buff unless it's 100% guaranteed.
And the first pick really was good onto BigManTingz more than anything else. It was an Oracle's attempt from eUnited that developed because CaptainTwig kept chasing and PandaCat's in a good position in mid to cut off the angle from Tings. Benji in the solo lane, playing the Kuzenbo this game. Build options so far, choose a focus up against the Gladiator Shield. This is a matchup we've seen before, totally, because Kuzenbo is good at freezing the lane and not dying. And Osiris is very good at bullying the lane.
And Benji thinking long-term with the Guardian's Blessing. fineokay wants to put pressure on this Guardian and deny him as much farm under the tower, stripping away a little bit of gold. But Benji, with about 46 stacks, 47 now on the Guardian's Blessing, about to get 48 gold per minute, trying to play catch-up.
Good news for Benji, though, playing the Kuzenbo. He's got a lot of targets that are going to have trouble against him in these matchups. Just at least you're not going to want to attack him when he's popping that shell spikes that are going to cause so many problems. But specifically, his job in the late game was probably make sure Hachiman doesn't do anything.
Yes, just be all in Arkkyl's grill is the goal from Benji, and that's something that he's very good at ever since his Season 2 days with Enemy, formerly known as Salt Machine, winning matchups that he probably shouldn't have been winning in the solo lane, specifically that Guan Yu matchup into a Hades, but regardless, he's definitely not one to count out, even if he's playing a Guardian up against a Warrior.
Mike doing his nice little pull onto Calais there. Calais does get taken for a ride. Surprise that Calais let himself get pulled. I guess his walls are on cooldown, but his life has been taken away here. iceicebaby with the rotation in, but there's not much he can do, and actually he's on the run.
Trying to get away from CaptainTwig, but now Benji making the rotation. Watery Grave being used out, but a perfect shell keeping him up.
Ultimate out from BigManTingz there, looking for the players. PolarBearMike did pick up iceicebaby at the tail end of that play, and he will escape the danger. Emilitoooooo's rotation is trying to punish Mike, but he may need a little bit more help to get the kill.
Trying to find a kill again onto fineokay between a rock and a hard place, between that tier 1 and tier 2 tower. Is not where you generally want to be. fineokay kind of suffering that fate because PBM overextended to get the kill on iceicebaby, which was worth it, but because of the rotation from Emilito on the right side, this leaves Arkkyl to get all this free farm and chip away at the tier 1 tower.
Tower below half health at 7 minutes in. It's very similar to what we saw Emilito do in Chernobog yesterday. Rotated to the solo lane, trying to support these fights for eUnited, but at a deficit for himself in his own lane.
He hesitated a little bit on the airstrike. He just couldn't get the very tail end of that damage onto PBM. PBM very patient underneath. He was trying to juke out the landing. Finally guessed correctly. Emilito landing at the wrong location. Couldn't get another kill, and that's going to hurt him even further now as he's about half a level behind Arkkyl.
Wherever you see Mike go, and just keep an eye on it, because he could go aggressive at any moment with how he's playing. Ultimate's on cooldown, as well as the beads, though, but it's all about positioning frontline. And with the fact that he's going for the Void Stone as well now, he's going for the aura that's going to reduce protections a little bit more, empower Hebo, but also just allow him to take a bit more damage from the likes of the Terra and the Vulcan.
That's true. Looking for ways to mitigate some of that damage, never a bad thing. Also amplifying the damage for himself. PBM has been all over the place with this blink, gaining full value. That kill onto Calais, his beats were still down for about 10 seconds or so. So PBM had that timer in the back of his mind, abusing BigManTingz earlier and now abusing Calais.
Rival just really played to what eUnited drafted more than anything else, it feels to me. The first 3 picks seemed pretty standard. Something of Osiris rising back to the meta again, Hardware as well. But then as they saw what eUnited developed in terms of a composition, this Ares pick is kind of put already a nail in the coffin before the game even began from my point of view, and it's very much make sure that it doesn't go crazy. iceicebaby though to the sky, looking for a play on the right hand side.
fineokay gonna get knocked up. He does have Lord of the Afterlife, and he also has CaptainTwig alongside, and that's why he wants to keep fighting.
And he's gonna go in towards iceicebaby, but didn't manage to find the extra damage. Benji meanwhile forced to use his ultimate as well as CaptainTwig gets rotated on by Calais. Calais pops the ultimate, and that's going to cause a lot of problems for CaptainTwig. His sustain was there, but it still wasn't enough. No escape, however.
The pull into the crushing wave, taking out iceicebaby. Now the chains right on top of Calais. PandaCat with a hot triple.
And Panda gets all the credit for that, but realistically, that was the setup from the rest of Rival. overall. I think CaptainTwig could have chosen to get out of that fight if he wanted to, but he knew he was in danger, but he was doing it for the good of the team.
He knew PandaCat was along the way. He knew PBM was right beside him, so that was a valuable sacrifice. A 1-for-3 trade. CaptainTwig has been mentioning in interviews recently how he wants to be that catalyst for the rest of his team. He wants to be that utility-style jungler, no longer the carry. Even though he has the capabilities of doing so, he would rather allow everyone else to just feel comfortable on his team.
I think the main thing is if you can get the rest of your team feeling comfortable as a jungler, you get a bit more freedom then. If you're supporting all your lanes and all your lanes are naturally winning because you're doing your job, it makes it a little bit more relaxing of like, okay, yeah, I can go and get a speed and not have to worry about my dual lane dying at level 1 or level 3, for example. Twig in the mid lane though, now level 10. 2 levels above iceicebaby now, and iceice, it has felt, I've seen a couple of ults where he's looking to either re-engage or at least try and attempt to fight, but with a Kuzenbo and a Ratatoskr, you're not really going to find kills against Osiris, it felt like to me.
You're never going to find a kill onto an Osiris unless his ultimate is guaranteed down, but in that case, fineokay still had the ultimate, he even had Gladiator Shield, so he's absorbing a lot of damage from iceicebaby, and he wants to take fights to proc that passive, to gain the sustain up, especially when he knows he has backup coming. It was a nice attempt, though, because Calais was around the corner, so it was calculated. It wasn't just going to be a 2-on-1. They expected that they would have had a 3-on-1 before anyone else would have showed up to save fineokay, but that just wasn't calculated to the T out of eUnited.
Hunter builds are starting to diversify at this moment in the game. Obviously, both gone for the Devourer's Gauntlets because they like to stack with all that free farm they're getting. But now we see the Odysseus build for Arkkyl, which makes a lot of sense. Not wanting to go crit against a Kuzenbo isn't surprising to me. Whereas Emilito playing Jingwei, you want crit on Jingwei if you can find it.
fineokay might be thinking about getting Thorns now if he sees Emilito's build, or maybe even go for a hide enemy in line, or just straight up both, depending on the case. Rival with a very comfortable lead, 11.5 minutes in, could easily start going for some baits around Gold Fury.
They're going for a steal on the blue buff right now. Both CaptainTwig and fineokay taking individual trades. Benji pulls fineokay into the tower. Blue buff is dropped on that right-hand side, and everybody's on the left-hand side from Rival, taking away the red buff.
BBM actually picking up that red buff because PandaCat already has his own, and a level 10 Ares with Pen Boots and Void Stone. Yeah, I think I would want him with the red buff as well. Anyone caught out of position from eUnited is going to get absolutely melted.
Outside of the 2 solo laners, the next damage player on the charts is that Ares. Sure, PandaCat's on there too, but he did hit a 2-man ultimate,
That's
which
right.
definitely boosts those numbers a little bit more, as now the solo lanes are hitting level 12.
Which was also set up by PBM,
Yes.
mind you. And speaking of PBM, 3-0-4, a part of every single kill thus far out of Rival. He's just been at the right place at the right time. He's a very cerebral player in that regard, and that's why he went for the Bling.
And this is why they're going for the Gold Fury too, because they've seen a window of opportunity here at Rival and are looking to exploit it to its maximum potential. It's going to be taken down, uncontested by eUnited, who didn't really realize until it was too late it was even being done.
Emilito would have had to sacrifice clearing the wave to poke his head around the corner to see if Rival's doing the Gold Fury, and then he would have gotten chained and obliterated or forced to defensively airstrike and then even concede that wave, so he would have been behind in farm. But it was pretty telegraphed that Rival was going to do that Gold Fury once they cleared out that sentry ward. So eUnited definitely not at the right place.
Both the solo laners are going to go for the Thorns investment here. No real surprise. Benji wants it because he's Kuzenbo, and double stacking Reflect is always wise. Whereas, as you said, you know, with the crit coming out from Emilito here, fineokay's got an easy opportunity. It's definitely a game of chicken, so to speak, between hunters and solo laners about waiting for the other relic. Chains out from Mike onto Benji, though. fineokay collapsing. Fight could break out here.
And something Benji can do is, even just outside of focusing out Arkkyl, if he gets hit by PBM's chains and flames, he can even use all that reflect damage on top of the Ares that doesn't have that much health in his build yet.
Benji, in place, takes a bit of damage, blinking from iceicebaby, looking to secure the camp, and does so. Does walk away with his life for now until fineokay has enough of that. And the damage is just too much for iceice to handle. Benji pushed under his tower by himself. And with fineokay around here and PolarBearMike waiting in the wings, it's a fallback option for eUnited as they lose another player.
No ultimate from Benji, which means no CC immunity. PBM could definitely blink ulti this Kuzenbo in the next 75 seconds or so. PandaCat making the rotation now. Pyromancer going to get secured from Rival. Just all over the place. In the kills, in the objectives, and soon with the towers looking at the dual lane health bar.
Gotta give credit where it's due. PolarBearMike is actually a little better this year. Like, he's getting better as a player. I've seen him grow from the eager days when he first joined Zap all the way back when, to being this sort of powerhouse now. A lot of that really does feel about comfort on being on this team and the team he's around. He looks like he's just in that zone now, which is great.
He's always thinking, he's always trying to get a one-up advantage over his enemies, and that's what makes him such a strong player and such a scary player to play against, whether it's even in SPL or even in your ranked games. He's always going to be experimenting with different things, and you're going to think it's trolling, but honestly, it's not, because everything he does has logical merit to it whenever he plays.
Talking about logical merit, I'm not sure why I've not seen a sprint just yet out of eUnited. I feel like Calais is going to have to invest into a heavenly agility here at some point, because the amount of slows that Rival have, it's a consistent slow composition. Slow after slow after slow, and that's including the likes of Chains, not just a cripple, but it does slow you down too.
Well, Cal is still sitting at level 11, has a little bit to go before he can get that sprint online to negate the effects of the horrific emblem as well as the chains. That would be a good idea for him to go there, knowing that he already has the beats defensively. They're going to be lacking a shell, though. That could be problematic against CaptainTwig's Erlang Shen.
That's about, and the Hebo as well, I guess, for the burst damage that comes from a crushing wave. You're right there. Only 16 minutes in, though, well, approaching 16 minutes in, the goal lead has grown to around 5,500 here at the moment. 6,000, I should say. And now they're looking for more picks. Calais chained in place, does have beats, remember, to try and keep himself topped up. Has to use his ultimate to try and get away and does so, but that does cost him his beads. And he still falls down after the fact anyway. iceicebaby gets here. BigManTingz with a big ult, but the Aegis from PandaCat keeps him alive.
Oh, a little bit too far overextended. iceicebaby sacrifices his life for Arkkyl. CaptainTwig gonna get one hit, but the chains prevent the backfire. PBM with 10% health, still sticking around to see if he can provide of any use to the remainder of the team fight.
Those players as support players are some of the trickiest because you want to hang around for your forms of CC to help them out. But if it goes wrong, you get blamed.
That's right.
It's your fault for being an idiot and sticking around.
Why didn't you back?
Exactly.
Man.
Yeah, you should be back in there. But really, it's a support mentality to be last man in, first man in, last man out.
I agree. You know, you got to be the captain with the ship that goes down.
Yeah,
so.
but then you get these stupid solo laners like you, Toli, who like stay in the fight forever because you're like, I'm fine. And you're like, bro, there's 5 guys around you. Like, let me get you out of here. And you're like, no, let's stay together. We can kill them all. And then you both won.
I like 5 guys. The shakes, the Cajun fries.
Okay, I was wondering we were going a different route there, and I didn't want to go down there. It's too early on a Friday for that. Build-wise, PandaCat going for a little bit more penetration here as well. Already Spirit Desolation online, which is something you expect to see if you can get the investment there. Very valuable item. And then after that, going straight into the Void Stone.
10% cooldown reduction paired up with another 10% from Shoes of Focus.
Sorry,
it's a good idea because with the aggression from Rival's frontline, you have so much time to drop your abilities. It's not a team fight that's going to last for a minute. These team fights are good, or actually they will last for quite a while rather. So that's why the more effective CDR you get, the better PandaCat's DPS is going to just increase further. Now going for the Obsidian Shard, trying to blow away some of these tanky frontliners, Benji and Calais. They thought they were struggling before. Once that Op Shard is completed, it's going to be a lot harder.
Speaking of Benji, I really do like that Stone of Gaia pickup from him, though. Quite a few knock-ups on the side of Rival here. Plenty of chances to proc that and allow him some sustain. But it's all about the Primal Fury right now for Rival as they start it and actually forced to reset. iceicebaby hovering in the sky, goes on CaptainTwig, who beats away from the danger and turns it around nicely. Gets credit for the kill onto the Ratatoskr. Mike, after the fact, pulls in 2 targets. And oh, baby, they're prime as they take down Emilito. And Calais has to dash away. They don't even care about the Fury. Now they want more blood.
Oh, the Bling from CaptainTwig. He finds another one on top of Calais. 3 dead eUnited members. A route onto BigManTingz, but no one else to follow up. A beautiful pull from PBM, allowing PandaCat for the crushing wave on top of Emilito, but more importantly was the beat from CaptainTwig baiting iceicebaby. He's like, please land on me. I want you to, so the rest of my team can absolutely decimate you. A 3 for nothing and a Fury. Rival just all over the board.
Pyromancer about to spawn soon. CaptainTwig on the left-hand side, just going to push that wave in one more time while Jing is respawning. Emilito in that engagement, he was trying to make plays happen, but no beads. And PolarBearMike clearly recognized that with how good that no escape was.
No airstrike available to get out of danger, so he was just a sitting duck. Rival making some very aggressive plays and being rewarded. Now positioning for more aggression on the right side of the map.
Yeah, they've come over here for the blue buff, but unfortunately it's already been taken down in eUnited a little bit quicker than Rival expects them to be there. But the good news is they can fall back to the Pyromancer. And with Arkkyl and PandaCat here and Mike on zone duty, it won't take too long to bring down.
Hachiman doing a lot of work in these objectives. That Gold Fury was getting absolutely melted before iceicebaby was even getting close with his ultimate. They could have actually probably gotten it before the Through the Cosmos landed, but it didn't matter. Rival wanted to play it super safe, and I don't fault them for that whatsoever. And with the damage onto Pyromancer, that's a small foreshadowing of how quickly they're going to strip away this Fire Giant objective once they feel confident to go for it.
Tell me, why is Osiris back in the solo lane again? What happened? Why has he reappeared? What's your
Honestly,
viewpoint?
So, eUnited, well, sorry, Rival saw the games yesterday against eUnited, and they were like, you know what? It seems that eUnited struggle against this Viking frontliner because it covers a lot of options from early game shenanigans. eUnited tried to do some fancy stuff around the speed buff. Osiris from Deathwalker yesterday shut that down. The level 1 Sickle Strike, 5-second cooldown. You're not going to get out of that if you don't have Sprint. So that covers one option. Then number 2, it makes it difficult to box into the solo lane. No real matchups beat him. Jungle ganking him is almost impossible. We saw what iceicebaby was failed to do because of all that damage mitigation from the passive.
Well, left-hand side right now, that Osiris is on the red buff, but the rest of Rival are all at the Fire Giant here. It's only 20 minutes in, so it's not the enhanced version. It can be brought down relatively well, especially with the level lead that Rival has. But with eUnited showing their face enough, it's slowed down Rival at the Fire Giant. Rival are really doing this to try and draw in eUnited.
That's right. Because of that, Calais takes about 30 to 40% of his health with 3 chains, a little bit of flames. Arkkyl not really there to DPS follow-up, and as a Terra that can't dash, that's a big part of her kit, to be able to crash through the monolith, crash through the stones or the rocks that are going to collapse with a stun.
It's one of the reasons where you can see those beats were picked up by Calais at the beginning of this game, and he has gone for the sprint, which I kind of expected to see. But as you alluded to earlier on, Tolly, they're not going to have the shell. As iceicebaby, I thought he might have been in the sky for a second there, but he's not. He was just clearing out the oracles. As fineokay going to defend this left-hand side.
Looking for maybe some action on the left. The Fury not due to respawn for a little bit. About 2 minutes or so for the Oni to come back up. And Rival, it's easy for them to get any objective that they want. So eUnited have to consider, okay, do we fight into this objective or do we give it up and try to go for the opposite side? And that's going to be a battle of ward vision control. If they don't have the vision control for eUnited, then they can't make that defensive reaction.
I can see your call there, Tully. I think the idea to split push and stay away from Rival might be the right option for eUnited here. With the level difference in multiple roles, it might just be worth, farming. If they want to go Fire Giant, do it, but let's try and get a tier 2 in left, maybe a tier 1 in mid lane,
And that's why fineokay, with his upgraded teleport, is in the same lane as the global pressure Ratatoskr from iceicebaby. Level 15, down 4 levels compared to his counterpart of CaptainTwig. Needs some farm anywhere he can go, as already fineokay making the rotation on the right side is going to allow iceicebaby the farm.
The thing is, Benji keeps sniffing out this aggression that you can see multiple members of Rival keep swinging to this right-hand side, the solo lane. They want to try and take down the tower if they can, but more importantly, if they can kill Kuzenbo, it opens the window for the Fire Giant, because Watery Grave's so good at disrupting.
And they're just going to straight up start it seems. Arkkyl going to get knocked up, unfortunately.
Classic.
Drops the heavily banner to allow fineokay the extra attack speed instead of himself.
There's a lot of attack speed in this composition when you think about it and how useful that will be with the likes of an Osiris and an Erlang Shen too. But Fire Giant's getting low, Watery Grave's causing problems, and Rival, they do get the Fire Giant, but do they get anything else? Well, it's going to be 2 kills so far. Make that 3 as Arkkyl takes out Benji, and now emilitoooooo forced to airstrike away as the march of Rival continues.
I think CaptainTwig just straight up killed BigManTingz by himself with a couple of other eUnited jerseys beside him. Rival barely get that Fire Giant with the Watery Grave, disrupting PandaCat, wanting to crushing wave, and that was a very smart call. There is not a damage source outside of the Vulcan ultimate that can contest PandaCat's damage, and that's why CaptainTwig was keeping the Vulcan in check. Whether or not he got the kill didn't matter.
Well, they do get a kill in the mid lane at least. emilitoooooo brings down CaptainTwig, but it's going to cost him a Phoenix in the meanwhile. There's not much they can really do to defend. There's just Ratatoskr and Jing against this whole army of Rival on that right-hand side. So instead, turn their attention to the Oni Fury. Tully, coming into this game, if you just saw pick some bands blind, I think we both would have fallen for Rival's composition straight away.
Yes.
That Ares pick has made the difference, and we couldn't see it coming, You could expect it. You just hope eUnited could deal with it, and it's been a tough ask.
And eUnited wanted to ban away the Fafnir because they saw the Hachiman before secondary ban phase, and they were a little worried that it could have been a double Hunter composition, maybe like a Musenkov Hachiman, or even like Kronos Hachiman, which would have been an issue. So they wanted to prevent that objective control, but instead they had to deal with the level 1 Blink, and PBM was just all over the place, sitting at 5-0-10.
Definitely advantages for Rival, though, with the fact that Osiris is a first pick for them. They've got more flexibility than others may realize, with the fact that CaptainTwig has played it so many times in the jungle. It did give that option to him. And eUnited drafted their own style, but walked straight into an Ares, which could have been counterbanned.
Could have been.
I think it will be next time.
I think the Jingwei was a little bit too early also for eUnited. When I think Jingwei, I don't think emilitoooooo playing the Jingwei. I think he has a very specific style, and it's aggression, his style. Not much has really changed in Season 6 in that regard, but he's not going to be able to really get those 1v1 plays when Rival are playing like this.
Well, onto the defense we go again. The right-hand side, it has no Phoenix there for eUnited, but they've at least pushed the minion wave up a bit to delay those minions coming in. So Rival grouping is 3 on the left, but meanwhile they've sent 2 to the mid lane for the tier 2 tower.
2-3 split. Rival are not really worried about the right side after they push that out. Their Oni wave did go down to the right, so they're going to have to worry about some fire minions. It's up to Rival to set the pace. Are they going to engage now, or are they going to wait for these fire minions on the right?
BigManTingz already had to use the beads in the mid lane as CaptainTwig used his ultimate to try and get the pick there. So that's not going to be available. It means BigManTingz is going to be a little bit careful more on the positioning now over how much CC Rival has. PolarBearMike will be looking for a no escape onto him at a moment's notice.
So as plenty of times, these minions are getting closer and closer. On the right side, that Titan is exposed with the right side Phoenix being down. Rival dropping the carpet, dropping the heavenly banners to go in, but up in the sky is iceicebaby.
And he comes down on PandaCat, who gets timed beautifully by BigManTingz for the ultimate. No chance for Panda to use any sort of relic there. Should have preemptively done so as Benji takes out CaptainTwig, and Rival have been told, hey, you're having a good game, boys, but don't get too confident. emilitoooooo shuts down PolarBearMike, fineokay on the front line. He's left alone, and he's just going to try and buy as much time as possible.
And even iceicebaby back into defend the Titan. A smart play. I think fineokay is dead to rights here. He does have Lord of the Afterlife, and he's going to land right on top of BigManTingz to at least find 1 kill. I don't know if he can get more than that, though, Hindu.
Should end up falling down towards the end, but at the end of the day, he shouldn't have even got a kill there. And that's a mistake from eUnited. And you could see just quickly on your screen, BigManTingz looking to the sky for help with what just happened. Great play from fineokay, individual play towards the end of that. But more importantly, I think PandaCat should have pre-beads that, in my opinion, or at least Aegis.
Absolutely. Should have done one, if not both. But that's what's going to happen. You make a little mistake like that, and that's a big mistake, actually, against the United. They're going to punish you. It doesn't matter if they're down 12,000 gold, because knock up into a Vulcan ultimate that's level 20, almost full build, is going to take out a squishy Habwa. And the build from PandaCat is about these long, sustained fights, 30% CDR. He's trying to get the procs on the soul gem, but he can't be getting one shot like that in the next one, because if eUnited defend for a second time in a row, then they're basically back into it.
Credit where it's due, though. BigManTingz's timing of the ultimate was to perfection. Him and iceicebaby made that look really clean. And it's not an easy thing to pre-fire a Vulcan ultimate for the same time as the Ratatoskr lands to confirm the damage.
Not only that, the positioning of where iceicebaby lifted off from, I don't think anyone from Rival spotted it out. So it was pretty much in the blind. They would have to kind of... So I think PandaCat would have had to sit on the left side wall to really spot out above him where exactly iceicebaby is, or when that Vulcan ultimate is coming over.
So Rival still having a comfortable lead at the moment. They won't be threatened so much just yet by what eUnited put up in terms of defense, but they do need to make corrections, because one more fight like that and eUnited are definitely back in this and could turn it. The longer the game goes, the longer the respawns are. But without Calais potentially being alive, this could be tricky for eUnited here. Great taunt after the fact from Twig just to secure the kill and set up one member being down on eUnited.
If the fight is on Rival's terms, they will find picks like that. It's up to eUnited to synergize their global pressure with the long-range artillery Vulcan ultimate, but Rival not going to let that easy go in the second round.
iceicebaby to the sky again. BigManTingz will have his ultimate, but at the same time Twig blinks towards him to keep him busy. BigManTingz possible defensively, but emilitoooooo does take out Ares. Fire Giant has been unleashed, which means Rival don't have it yet, but in comes Arkkyl.
Going past Benji to find the kill onto iceicebaby. Now onto emilitoooooo. Can't find the kill. He's buying some time with the Aegis. Meanwhile, Arkkyl and PandaCat take out Benji. It's only Big Man and Calais responding to play defense, but Rival not wanting to end or go for the right side Phoenix. They're going to respawn and go for this Fire Giant.
CaptainTwig made a big play there. The blink onto BigManTingz, just making sure he didn't feel comfortable enough to free fire damage on the backline, slowed him down to not put extra onto the front line of Rival. Whereas Emilito there, he was boxing to those hot as much as he could. He just ran out of teammates around him to support.
I love how Arkyl's like, you know what, Benji, I'm done with you. I'm just going to mounted archery past you and go to the real targets that matter. Now, with Rival starting up this Fire Giant, 4 seconds until PBM spawns, CaptainTwig zoning rather effectively. All 5 Rival members get the enhanced version.
And now with this, it makes it a little bit easier on these sieges once again to bring them down. It is a weakened Phoenix on the right-hand side, which they could look to exploit now, but the respawn's coming through. Quick base option coming out from Rival. Pyramid Fury is available. We'll see if they return to a 3-2 split again.
And I'm almost surprised that United wanted to try to defend 4-on-5. Maybe 5-on-5, okay, but then once you lose Calais, you're not really going to win that rest of that fight unless you get off a really good double ultimate the same way they did under that left Phoenix. But it's a lot easier, I think, to defend Phoenixes than it is to try to take an outnumbered fight at the Fire Giant.
I think the one thing we've seen is because Terra's been neutralized quite a lot by the slows and the chains, the cripples coming into play, that we really just rely on iceicebaby as the only real initiation that eUnited have at their disposal, is forced to use the ultimate to really make a play.
And each chain lasts 2 seconds worth of cripple duration. As long as PBM can min-max the full duration of 3 chains, it's going to be a 6-second cripple, and that's plenty of time for PandaCat to get off his full kit, Arkkyl to get off more than 6 hits, because you know his attack speed is through the roof between the Chinsari's Xe and the Oboe, and that's why Calais has to preemptively use that Earth and Fury ultimate to be able to get out of dodge. And honestly, Rival don't even have to fully kill Calais. If they could just bait out the ultimate, they'll go for round 2 later.
Player damage is generally eUnited's way for the most part here, and a lot of that is because of the front line that Rival are presenting to them. Multiple tanks that are willing to take a bit of a battering and still stay standing is allowing eUnited to look pretty good there. But it's still effective damage for the most part as we watch this engagement.
And now PandaCat is sitting on the left side, but now he's in the middle. Could be a little bit of trouble sitting in the back as they're still trying to siege the left side.
Blink in from Twig, taunts onto 3. BigManTingz pulled back and knocked up and almost dead. Will be soon. Meanwhile, iceicebaby does get towards PandaCat, but this time Panda ready for the situation. Crushing waves defensively. Knock up from Emilito onto 2 targets, prime targets, frontline targets. PolarBearMike getting low as well, as now Benji brings fineokay back into a dangerous spot, and Emilito takes down PBM.
The airstrike was a good amount of damage, but once he lands, he gets plucked away by the water sprout from PandaCat. Now with a 2-on-4, they did kill PBM. I like the thought process from CaptainTwig, keeping BigManTingz preoccupied. Didn't even have a timing window to drop that ultimate.
And now into the middle Phoenix they go with Hachiman banner. It won't take too long, but 3 members doing their best to defend here. Calais, iceicebaby, and Benji all slowing down the aggression of a Rival, but not long enough to keep the Phoenix standing. 2 down, only a weakened 1 remaining on the right-hand side for eUnited to defend.
Arkkyl going to sustain from the speed buff a little bit longer with Big Man coming up in 8 seconds. No PBM for Rival. They're going to ignore the right side Phoenix. They got 2 Phoenixes already. They can go for the 3rd a little later.
So what needs to change for United here, Tolly? Because it looks like Tings is the one that they're having to play through. He's the one that's making an impact in the fight. It's not saying the rest on, but they need his damage. How do they protect him better?
It's hard to really protect him because Benji's thinking of ways of how to engage. But I think now, at this point, he has to consider ways to peel. Because if they don't get off a Vulcan ultimate in the next fight, there's no real way to play defense. And not only that, that Vulcan ultimate has to be accurate and at least force out Aegis's, if not straight up do damage. So Benji needs to use either Watery Grave or the Sumo Slam onto CaptainTwig. But then again, CaptainTwig is going to be using those beads preemptively, keeping BigManTingz busy.
And if Benji's going to be protecting BigManTingz, he's not frontlining. Is my only concern there, which means they've not got a little bit of a lack there. Maybe you're looking at Emilito to like work as a team with BigManTingz a little bit more. Those two need to protect each other.
That's normally how a lot of SPL teams will play around each other. Keep their hyper late game carry picks next to each other to blow up the same individual target. However, you could also have Calais just straight up use that Earth and Fury in his backline and still allow Benji to play frontline. Okay, we'll see if eUnited can make corrections, but it might be a little bit too late here. 34 minutes in almost. The next Enhanced Fire Giant up in about a minute's time. And only 1 Phoenix for eUnited to defend as Pyromancer will go down here. eUnited did do a good job on defense overall to extend the length of this game, but it is still being lost. It just feels more, you know, it's like a long, painful death, this one now. But it is giving eUnited a chance to, well, warm up, I would say, in terms of a whole team in the SPL of learning to play together, their weaknesses and strengths as a team. You could definitely tell that eUnited are still kind of going going through some growing pains
Sure.
with Emilito still in here. Didn't have much time to scrim. He landed on Monday, so he is in the same household as eUnited, but to find a little bit of better synergy. Maybe the picks and bans. Emilito gets absolutely decimated. PBM has to switch his targets to Calais now with the chains.
It was a good flick of the wrist to get those chains off as well, because he was really looking for the blink onto Emil, but Emil dashes away in time. So Blink consumed there for PolarBearMike. He falls back to the safety of the Fire Giant in this halfway point. Twig wrapping around towards the speed buff. Maybe able to get behind a couple of members of eUnited. The rest of Rival, though, slowly but surely bringing down the Fire Giant. However, they've reset it once Benji appears.
CaptainTwig right on top of BigManTingz, and that's the individual target.
BigManTingz under pressure, but will get his ultimate off onto 3 targets. Hits onto fineokay, who had thorns up at the same time. iceicebaby, after the fact, takes out Arkkyl. Rival make a mistake in the fight. eUnited do a better job of positioning, and they come out on top for now.
But I don't think Rival is done quite yet.
They're gonna
Poking
defend.
out Benji. That's right. That middle Phoenix is exposed. 2 fire minion waves is going to force out the backs from iceicebaby and emilito. Losing Arkkyl is a big blow, and he had to Aegis, unfortunately, for BigManTingz's ultimate, but that allowed iceicebaby to play cleanup.
I think the big thing there was Rival went, okay, drop the Fire Giant, let's go. Arkkyl mounts up straight away, charges into battle, and then gets a little bit too far forward than the rest of his troops.
And the way eUnited adapted in that last fight was keeping everyone next to BigManTingz. Clearly evident that CaptainTwig wanted to dive that backline. He blinks in. I think Earth and Fury was used to keep BigManTingz alive. Not only that, BigManTingz, despite getting focus fired by CaptainTwig, had the presence of mind of still turning around and dropping a very accurate 3-man ultimate, forcing out the Aegis from Arkkyl, allowing iceicebaby to clean up.
eUnited have just had their left-hand Phoenix respawn, the middle one soon to follow. And now there's a window where Rival may end up getting a little bit concerned about, well, throwing the game is the best way I can put this, because eUnited have done a very good job of battling back in. And one more frustration situation like that where they lose another fight, we've been saying it, that is definitely a game that could be swung back around and Phoenixes could fall on the other side.
Both Phoenixes respawning in middle and left side. Fire Giant being toyed with, but Rival would rather take a fight around this corridor. The zoning stun from Calais is going to be used. And I don't really see how Rival can now go back into this, because the experience is basically tied up. They are up 16,000 gold, but that's basically most of it comes down to the 6 items that get replaced for the boots because of the swiftness elixir.
Is it worth totally sending fineokay to the left-hand side? We should be doing some split pushing here with the fact they've got the teleport available and the weakened Phoenixes as well?
Not really, because during the teleport, you could get blown up. That takes about 5 seconds to come back into the team fight.
But who's going to blow up Osiris? That's why I'm like,
no. Like, eUnited might force a fight around the Fire Giant side, and they might blow up somebody.
Mike was a little bit far forward in his own. I don't think he realized the rest of Rival had fallen back a little bit. He took more damage than bargained for. Calais pops the ult after the fact. iceicebaby off the mark with the ult, though, and that gives a window for PandaCat to escape. He's forced to use the Aegis, and Arkyl's there to support. Ultimate out from the Vulcan does not find a home, and now the fight entails where eUnited have pushed too far forward. Mike was baiting! He wasn't intentionally baiting, but it works out in favor of Rival, and eUnited had a window, but it wasn't good enough for them to capitalize on, and now one by one they fall with 50 to 60 second respawns. That is going to be the game-winning fight.
What just happened? eUnited crumbled right under themselves. iceicebaby gets deicide, and Rival are going to win game number 1. It looked like a good fight to start things off because PBM was left alone.
Yes.
A lot of damage there, but then I think BigMan was just in no man's land. He gets caught underneath. Arkkyl has to use that ultimate defensively to escape the Vulcan ultimate, but then he makes a U-turn and he realizes, hey, wait a second, BigMan is totally alone.
On paper, Mike was out of position there, but on paper, eUnited lose the game. That's all you need to know in the grand scheme of things. Rival take game 1. They led for large portions of that. But give credit where it's due to eUnited and their defense.
I think both teams have a lot to discuss. Even though Rival won that game, they need to figure out a way to cleanly siege these Phoenixes, respect the Vulcan a little bit more. You can see how CaptainTwig wanted to keep BigMan in check. iceicebaby had a great game on the Ratatoskr in the later portion, but all it takes is one little mistake, one little mispositioning by your mid player, then all of a sudden the rest of the team fight crumbles.
And with the game going on so long there for eUnited, them extending it even more so. My biggest concern is the fact that they got themselves even more frustrated with what happened there in that game. You know, they fought back into it, and then a mistake where they should have got a kill ends up costing them the game. is that even good for them in the end of the day? Should they have just moved on to game 2?
Well, but considering that the game lasted 38 minutes after how fast Rival got off to that start with the blink from PBM, I'm impressed eUnited even got to that point in the game, so they can at least use that as a starting point for game number 2 of all right, we have to watch out for the early game from Rival, maybe ban away the Ares, or if we're going to give up the Ares, we have to figure out a way to play around it, drop more wards defensively, anticipating that rotation to punish.
Yeah, I do think we need to wind it all the way back in, though, to the beginning of the picks and bans and what went wrong there to even let that situation begin. eUnited dropped game 1. Did they drop it, though, to be fair? Let's ask the desk.
I don't know if it was dropped so much as it was taken by Rival, at the very least in that early game where they got just such an aggressive start.
Yeah.
And we were saying it just looking at the draft. I mean, Erlang, Shen, Habwa, and Ares, that's a pretty good 3-on-3 for your team, no matter who the other 3 are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. It's not great lane clear. It's just great fight potential.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to take that fight 3-on-3. And that's where United kind of fell apart. Iceicebaby fell so far behind in the early game. Twig and PBM were all over his back camps all game long. He fell behind and was really useless through the early few stages, and that kind of let Rival get this massive lead. But then it took them a little bit of time. The sieging wasn't going particularly well. I think BigManTingz had a couple really, really good ultimates. But ultimately, that last team fight, Mike feels like he's out of position, ends up kind of grouping everyone together.
Yeah.
And then BigManTingz just goes too far forward, and Arkkyl makes a sick play to not only avoid a very good Vulcan ult, but then turn around with that archery and end up hitting BigManTingz and killing him for it.
Yeah, that was really huge. It felt almost like PolarBearMike got a free ult because of the way he baited himself in that last fight. Like, everyone was essentially pulled into him anyway, and it really set up for the team. But you're right, it was so critical that Arkkyl didn't die there because that had really become a bit of a problem for them. Tings had started to hit a couple of nice ultimates. The fight right before that, Ting hits a nice ultimate, brings everyone low. Ice knocks up and sits on top of Arkkyl and gets the kill, and that's what slows eUnited down for a while. They really hit a bit of a wall in this late game on their sieges around these Fire Giant fights, but once they were able to get Ting out of the fights early, it was all Team Rival.
Man, fineokay with this kill on BigManTingz was nuts. That highlight we just saw of PBM with that sick chain on the iceicebaby was beautiful.
There it is.
And this is the play that I'm talking about. A quick reaction time, and then, no, I'm not using it to get away. Look at how far forward BigManTingz is. I mean, it's Benji and then BigManTingz, and then the rest of eUnited. That's just too far forward. And Mike on this Ares started off 5-0, then took 3 deaths in a row, but ends up putting himself in a position in the late game where everyone collapses onto him and he ultimately wins his team the game.
Yes, this Ares pick is really what sealed it, I think, for them because it ran the early game for them so well. But clearly, eUnited has a problem with this Osiris, right? I mean, fineokay had a great game too on this pick from Wells. You're about to see the KDA for him 5-2 and 14. It's clearly something that this team has a tough time dealing with. And now Benji's tried 4 different gods against it in a row now and hasn't been able to out-impact it or do more than it in a game at this point. I don't know. Maybe they got to ban it.
Maybe, and that feels really bad. Maybe United takes first pick and takes it for themselves.
Sure,
at this
maybe.
rate. I mean, I don't know how much Benji's been practicing it or anything like that. It is a pick that wasn't particularly meta until fairly recently, but I think it's less about Benji's impact in this game, honestly, and more about iceicebaby's. I mean, he has less damage than PBM. His early game was really, really tough, and I understand that was a dedicated effort from Rival to shut him down and take away his farm. But it happened to him yesterday as well. He had a really tough time farming yesterday.
Yeah.
He had a tough time farming in this game 1. I think Iceice needs to really look inward and see where he can get better farm because it just hasn't been working for him recently.
And for what it's worth on the bright side, I thought emilitoooooo actually had a pretty good game. You could tell, too, because his Jing made PBM pick up the Spectral Armor by itself, really. There was no other source of crit damage in that game. So clearly emilitoooooo was being felt by Rival on that side. So I think that is something to look forward to, that eUnited certainly have a Hunter skill of making an individual impact, but they're still making a ton of those errors. BigManTingz, it's with the positioning, right?
Yeah.
iceicebaby, is he farming well enough in that early to mid game? There's still these sort of areas where they can clean him up if they want to take down top teams like the Knights, like Dig, like Rival.
I mean, look, they can't go with the Dignitas-esque strategy of we can fall behind 10, 11K in the early game and still somehow manage to pull up this victory. They just can't do that.
Yeah.
Dignitas is kind of the team that's got that defensive star right now on even if we're behind, we can end up still winning. They end up ahead in a lot of their games too. It's not like that's the only way Dignitas is winning.
Sure.
But eUnited cannot afford to say, hey, will play for Enhanced Fire Giant later on and just wait for these siege opportunities and win there. They need to get off to better starts than they're getting off to, especially if you're drafting things like Ratatoskr.
Yeah.
You can't afford to fall
That's a
so
great
far
point.
behind in the early game.
That's literally why you draft Ratatoskr.
Yeah.
That 4, 5, 6 level, right around there, even a little bit beyond that. He really can often run the game with that rotational ability, so it really hurts that Ice was a ghost for them in that time of the game. But I mean, is it a picks and bans issue that you saw, or is it execution? I mean, if they're with this same draft, even with Ice playing the way that he played in an early game, and Tingz is further back, and they drag that game out a few more minutes, I mean, I think they can win that.
Yeah, they can.